Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have our first film of the summer of 2025. Does it deliver? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of the 36th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Thunderbolts. This film is directed by Jake Schreier. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want to make this a little bit different than what I'm usually doing when it comes to how I plot this out in my review, but this will be as non-spoiler as I can make it without talking about stuff in the trailer. So Thunderbolts is the 36th entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's a universe that's kind of gone off the rails a little bit. And this movie is an interesting one because it deals with the anti-heroes slash villains of other properties in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is kind of like its own version of the Suicide Squad, even though it's been around for quite a while. And so what this movie does and what it operates under is the idea of a character played by Florence Pugh, who of course has been in quite a few properties, played by who plays Yelena Belova. And she's dealing with some personal issues, some very what we call a very humanistic approach to a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, similar like what Tony Stark went through in Iron Man 3. And it also follows a bunch of characters who have been put in various situations in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, whether it be tested upon, whether it be put in the role of Captain America, whether it be, a original person like Red Guardian, who's dealing with not really feeling like he's in the limelight anymore. And it also deals with Bucky Barnes, who, of course, is a freshman senator, as we saw in, of course, Captain America. But it also deals with the nature of a character played by Julie Louis-Dreyfus, who plays Valentina, who wants to use the idea of power and the idea of superheroes to make profits off of. That's what she's there for. She is, of course, being under the testimony a possible, expulsion from the government. And it's basically a movie about who we are as humans, how we can incorporate ourselves into society, the dealings of depression. And that's a very interesting thing to do in a Marvel Cinematic Universe because, like I wrote in my X or / Blue Sky post, this is a very different Marvel movie. Some of the themes have been used, whether it be parents and stuff like that, and how they pass upon to their children, how the idea of PTSD, how that affects everyone, the idea of feeling alone, the idea of like just everything that can go wrong for a human being is what this movie is trying to approach. And so with that said, this is a movie that I was not going in expecting what I got. Now, it's going to be a very interesting kind of idea when it comes to what people think of this movie, because for my honest review, I think this movie's fascinating. I think this movie's interesting. I don't think it entirely hits, but I think there are things in this movie, including the character played by Louis Pullman, who plays Bob. And if you already know what character he plays. It's a movie that deals with like what it is to be a superhero, what it is to be a person who's put through so much crap that they have to survive in a world that doesn't treat them very well. But it also deals with a world where people wonder, are superheroes even valid anymore? It's a world where a thing could happen in New York City and people will run, but most people will just kind of drive by and go, oh, look, there's a Avenger or there's a Thunderbolt fighting people in a building, and they just kind of keep it going on their day. That's kind of world that we live in. So it feels a little like post 9/11 or post incidences many years after. The blip was several years now, so people just go on with their day like nothing happens. And that's a really fascinating thing, because you'll see it in the movie where there's a scene where they're fighting and nobody really reacts to it. It's really interesting. It's really kind of a creative way to show how the world just moves on really quickly after a major travesty and stuff like that. There's even moments when they're in the Senate and, they talk about the president became, the Red Hulk, and nobody really cares anymore. It's like news cycles and stuff like that. But this movie goes beyond that. It's actually levels deeper, where watching Florence Pugh as Yelena Belova, who is dealing with the fact that she lost her sister, the fact that, her father, the Red Guardian, is not really there for her, the fact that she is dealing with post-traumatic stress disorders and stuff like that when it comes to her past and how she feels alone. This is a movie that really attempts to get down to the nuts and bolts of what makes a person who they are and why we depend on people to do things that may go above and beyond, especially when we have parents, when we have kids. We want to be the person that they always remember, or who we always remember as, instead of the person that left us alone for our life. And I find that Jake Schreier and his group of, creators did a really nice job of just putting that into perspective. And, they go even further with Bob's character, which I was not expecting. I don't like where his kind of some of the story arcs of his character, but I love like the last 30 minutes of this movie because it's so unique and so different, and it goes into the real psyche of a human being, especially when they feel alone and they feel like injured and feel sad, and just how do you like go past that? How do you affect yourselves with that? But that's kind of why I like this movie in a lot of aspects, because these characters are flawed characters. They were once villains. They were once individuals that were looked down upon in society. They're the ones that people remember as, creating havoc. And, look at John Walker's character and what happened to him, and look what happened to Ghost and Taskmaster. It's a lot of stuff people know about now. There's a whole scene where they talk about, oh, you did this, you did this. They all know each other. It's really fascinating. It's really interesting to watch those characters, but it really attempts to go deeper than what most Marvel movies do. And I don't think it's done that since Iron Man 3 with the PTSD of like the Battle of New York with, of course, Tony Stark. But I love when these movies do that. That's why this movie feels like a phase 1 movie where, you look at Iron Man, which dealt with the war mongering and like the situation of that. You dealt with Thor with the fact that it was like fathers and sons. You look at like Captain America, which is like how we view ourselves as the hero, and like anybody can be a hero. And then the Avengers is like everybody teaming up and they can all be heroes and save the world. When this level MCU goes to this deep, and Shang-Chi did this with families and stuff like that, I really appreciate it. Now the problem with this movie is a lot of it is very by the book when it comes to the MCU. There's a lot of meat that has been cut from this movie, or I should say, a lot of meat. So there's a lot of stuff that feels missing. A lot of characters don't get as much like dimension as they should. I feel like it kind of cuts really quickly between the different stories. I feel like this movie could be like 20 minutes longer and it could work a lot better. And I think there are points in this movie where scenes happen, like especially set pieces, and it kind of comes out of nowhere how they're resolved and how these characters find where they're going. And once again, the Bob stuff, I like his kind of angular arc when it comes to like his psyche and stuff like that. But I don't like what they're doing with his character because, once again, I'm not going to spoil, but if you know, it's weird. It really is. I feel like they've done this before and they're kind of spinning their wheels. But I think, really, to be fairly honest, I still enjoy the movie, even though I don't like some of the scenes in this. I think Bucky Barnes' character is really weird, and I think he's always been kind of weird. I think it's levitated. I think it's brought into focus because of the nature of how damaged these individuals are. So I think it outweighs the cons of like how by the book this movie can be truly, to be fairly honest. And I think that's where I lie. I think it's a good, probably upper middle MCU movie, to be fairly honest. I think it's like, probably in the top 20 of the MCU movies, so maybe 15 or something like that. I don't know entirely. No, I'll put it in my letterbox. But to kind of end the review, the spoiler-free review, I like what this movie does. I think some of it struggles, but the psyche version where it deals with the mental situation and the PTSD and who we are as superheroes and what we do as superheroes and who can be a superhero and why they can be a superhero is the most fascinating aspects of this movie. I really do. And I think everybody's great in this movie. I think everybody has fun. I think the music's fun. I think the fact that they got Son Locks to do the music for this movie is fascinating. That's kind of where I lie on this movie, which is, of course, Thunderbolts. It's very different from any Marvel Cinematic Universe movie you'll see. So you may or may not like it. I'm not you, so I don't know. But I enjoyed this movie. I think it's one of the better ones I've seen in quite a while. And whether it holds up or not, we'll see, depending on how Avengers Doomsday goes. But that's my take on Thunderbolts, now in theaters. So anyways, with that said, thank you so much for watching my review of Thunderbolts. I do appreciate it. In the comments below, are you looking forward to this movie? Who's your favorite character in this movie? Is it, John Walker? Is it Ghost? Let me know why. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. As always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out, guys.